everyone, welcome to our Think Energy Hub and our Ask the Expert series, where I speak to experts across the energy sector about technologies, grants and initiatives that really we should know about to help us in our transition away from fossil fuels. Today, I am joined by Eric Dennis, who has previously shared his expertise with all of us before when we talked about home energy upgrades in the very first episode of this series. I asked Eric to come back and speak about something that is and will be absolutely crucial in transitioning Ireland away from fossil fuels, which of course is home energy upgrades and the grants available for these. Eric, hello, you're very welcome.
Hi Katie, good to be back on.
So I think it's important before we kind of jump into this, just to give a little bit of context for this conversation, which is of course the announcement from the government back in February, which was on their home retrofitting plan, which has a target of providing a significant grant aid towards deep retrofitting of, can you believe, 75,000 homes per year by 2026, with the overarching target of achieving 500,000 home energy upgrades to a B2 building energy rating by 2030. And directly connected to this announcement and target is a relatively recent update to the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland's grants. So the kind of range of grants and the value of grants available to the homeowners. So we thought it would be a good idea just to hop back on here and chat through these updates and how the new grants, I suppose, compare to the previous grants and so on, because there really is just so much information out there. So hopefully in the next 20 minutes, Eric can shed some light on all of this for you. So we might just jump straight in, if that's okay, Eric, just into the nitty gritty. So if we could start from kind of just the grants that are now available and how they compare to the previous grants. So I suppose we can start working our way through the house, starting from the top. So if you could take us through kind of attic insulation and wall insulation and go from there.
So in terms of the grants available for individual energy upgrades, there's attic grants, wall insulation grants, heating controls, grants, heat pumps, solar thermal, and solar PV, like solar electricity, and the solar thermal and solar hot water grants. So something there for everyone, really. And then when we look at the one-stop shop grants, there's additional grants available through that as well. So additional grants through a one-stop shop application would be things for like your home energy assessment, central heating system that is needed for your heat pump, rafter level roof insulation, windows, doors, floor insulation, mechanical ventilation, air tightness, and then there's a grant available through the one-stop shops for project management of the works as well.
Brilliant. I mean, there's a lot there. And as you said, there's something for everyone. So in terms of kind of the value that we're talking about, when it comes to attic insulation, what is the difference between what was there before and what is available now?
So in terms of the grants that are available, they've increased them significantly, particularly on the individual energy upgrades, where like the attic and wall grant, for instance, has increased from €400. The attic and cavity wall grant for individual energy upgrades previously was €400 per measure, and that's increased to the attic has increased to 800 for an apartment, 1,200 for a mid-terraced house, 1,300 for a semi-detached house, and 1,500 for a detached house.
Wow.
And when you look at wall insulation, again, from 400 up to 700 for an apartment, 800 for a mid-terrace, 1,200 for a semi-detached or end-of-terrace, and 1,700 for a detached house. So significant increases in grant amounts.
Yeah, and especially given that you can see such an impact just from doing those additional measures, or those first measures like attic and wall insulation, in terms of what is it, you can lose about 20 to 30% of your home's heat just through your attic. So, I mean, it's a fantastic place to start.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, 80% covering 80% of the cost as well. Those two measures, if again, if you can get your attic insulated and if you have cavity walls and get those pumped, you're covering the majority of the cost there. So, where previously the 400 grand was a contribution and a good contribution to the cost of the works, now the grant should cover the majority of the cost, and it's going to be accessible to so many more people there.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And in terms of the other types of wall insulation, in terms of like internal dry lining or external wall insulation, what are we looking at with those in terms of value and the difference?
Similar increases in value in terms of kind of percentage increase. But if you look at the new grants for internal dry lining, an apartment is €1,500, a mid-terrace is 2,000, a semi-detached is 3,500, and a detached house is 4,500.
Wow.
So again, a massive increase in grants on all wall measures, and that's again from something which is like a nice contribution to works, to what's going to actually cover a significant portion of the cost of the works with those increases, and external wall insulation as well. For an apartment, that's gone up to €3,000, mid-terrace 3,500, a semi-detached €6,000, and a detached house a massive like €8,000 contribution towards the measure for a detached house.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really great. And another area that would kind of be recommended for people if they want to get kind of a handle on their heating and their bills would be to look at installing heating controls. So in terms of what's available for those, what are we looking at?
So the heating controls grant has stayed the same.
Okay.
The heating controls grant was 700 and remains at 700. But again, the kind of the work that's involved in that is still a significant contribution to the heating controls upgrade.
And could you give us just a ballpark idea of what heating controls would usually cost, or does it totally depend on the house?
It would be fairly dependent on the house itself. Probably the main contributor to that is the year of construction. So the newer the house, I suppose building regulations would have increased, or the requirement would have increased incrementally over the years through the building regulations. So homes built kind of after kind of 1995, kind of into the early noughties, wouldn't require a lot to get them up to standard. And then houses that are older, I suppose the requirement is for standard boilers with hot water cylinders, you're talking you need at least one space heating zone, separate hot water, and either a second space heating zone or thermostatic radiator valves. So the control on your actual radiators. So for those, for older properties, that's going to cost a little bit more than stuff that was built, from 1995 on. Houses that are built, 95 on, again, they may already have some heating controls or some pipe work in place. The key to heating controls grant now is actually that you have to install 6 new items, and there's a checklist of items that are required for the heating controls grant, and in order to avail of it, you need to be able to tick 6 of those boxes. So that'll be, get on to your local plumber or your local contractor and have them come out and take a look and see if they can do the six tick boxes for that measure.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's really good to know. And then obviously kind of a piece of renewable technology that we're hearing a lot about now are heat pumps, which of course is another very significant target for the Irish government, where they're looking to install, I think it's 400,000 heat pumps into existing homes by 2030, which is only 8 years away now. So hearing about what's available for those, because obviously your house has to be heat pump ready. And if people want to know a little bit more about that, we have spoken about that in our first episode, but I also speak to Callan Tasnadi, who is an expert in heat pumps. So if anyone is interested in that and wants to know about, heat loss indicators and how to get your home heat pump ready, you can check that out. But in terms of kind of the grants available, can you talk us through those?
One of the, actually for all grants, one of the significant changes was actually the eligibility criteria, which we probably will come on to later.
Oh, brilliant.
So in terms of the date of construction, so homes built and occupied for heat pumps, in this case, it's homes built and occupied before 2021. This was previously 2011. So they've kind of stretched that out another 10 years. And what that will do is it will actually bring in a lot of homes that are already heat pump, are very close to heat pump ready homes. And that, in those instances, it's going to be very attractive for homeowners that have that type of house to install a heat pump with under the new rates. So heat pump systems for houses have gone up to €6,500 over grant, and apartments €4,500. So again, and again, it's eligible to people right up to homes built and occupied before 2021.
Yeah, that's really good. Am I right in saying the previous grant was about 3,500 or 3,000 for a house?
Yes, yeah.
So I mean, that's fantastic. Basically double. Which is great. And then I suppose just kind of talking on the eligibility for those grants, so you've mentioned heat pumps, but in terms of the other grants, has eligibility changed in relation to the other grants available?
Yes, in terms of the insulation grants, so your attic, cavity walls, internal insulation, or dry lining, external wall insulation, they were previously homes built and occupied before 2006. And that's been pushed out to built and occupied before 2011. So homes built up to and including 2010 will now be eligible for that. And again, a lot of construction kind of, there was a lot of work done in the 2000s kind of, and a lot of work in around the 2004, 5, 6 period. So there would have been a lot of homes finished out in 2006, 2007. That previously weren't eligible for any upgrade or any grants that are now going to be kind of brought into the eligibility criteria through that. And then it's the renewables, so your heat pump, your solar hot water, and solar PV that have been pushed out to 2020, built and occupied before 2021, so up to including 2020. So again, it's really cast the net kind of far and wide with this announcement.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. It just kind of really increases the catchment for people as well. And then I suppose for anyone who has kind of happened upon this conversation and wants a refresher, I suppose, on the steps that you'd recommend taking in order to kind of, avail of a grant with SEAI, what's kind of if you were to break it down into maybe 3 or 4 steps, what would you recommend being kind of the first one to start with?
So I suppose the first decision that homeowners will be faced with now is whether they want to go down the route of engaging with a one-stop shop or going down the route of individual energy upgrades. So the one-stop shop is exactly what it says on the tin. It's one phone call, ask, to say that you want to upgrade your home, and the one-stop shop are set up in such a way as they can take that lead and bring you right from survey stage, recommending suites of measures and upgrades to your home, through to appointing contractors, scheduling the works, project managing the works, organising the grant. Like they will claim the grant and discount it generally from the cost of the works, right through to QA, quality auditing the work, and right through to handover. And again, that's the purpose of the one-stop shop offering, is that they can do everything for you and on your behalf. Like I said, right from the first phone call through to, final handover and commissioning and, ensuring the quality of the works, and post-works customer service and follow-up as well. The other option then, of course, is generally that's going to, or the one-stop shop, is generally going to be for larger upgrades of homes to a B2, a B2 BER, whereas the individual energy upgrades allow homeowners to sort of pick and choose what measures they'll install in their own home, and they can do it incrementally over a longer period of time. But again, the grants, not all the grants, or there's not as many measures funded under individual energy upgrades, but the important ones are there, and the grant rates are comparable with the one-stop shop rates as well. So that's also a great option for anybody following that route. It suggests, speaking to a BER assessor or technical advisor and have them come out, take a look at the home, and again, just have that sort of roadmap there of, what's the best upgrades to do and when, and sort of put a plan in place early to, get your home up to this kind of B2, the B2 level, which is like a really comfortable kind of level and energy efficient level for a home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I suppose, because the one-stop shop obviously sounds extremely attractive, but I suppose one of the main barriers would be finance, and people having that, initial, finance to actually invest in a full retrofit of their home. So it is great that there's the option there for those that do have, the money readily available, to have that kind of, that full service offering. And then those that want to do it incrementally when they have, the amount ready to rock, they can. I think it's great to have both of those options. And I suppose to get your thoughts on what you think it has been the best addition to this kind of new grant system, like if you were to give an example of just best bang for your buck, what do you think has been kind of the best addition?
I'll probably be a little bit difficult here and give you a couple of answers to this question, Katie.
That's great.
I think I suppose it depends from where you're coming from. If you're in a home that's a little bit older, doesn't have very good attic insulation, and have cavity walls, to me, like the best thing to come out of this is the 80% grant for attic and walls. Like for me, those two, if even if it was just your attic, just to get your attic done, there's lots of homes built right even up until maybe 2004, where the attic insulation is like 200 millimeters in the attic. Like the standard has been for a good while 300 mils. So you'd require like a 100 mil top up of your attic insulation. Like there has to be thousands of homes in the country that's eligible for that. Mm-hmm. And this grant is going to cover the majority of the cost of that. It's going to come at very little cost to a homeowner, and it'll have a massive impact on your comfort and energy levels in your and your energy usage and cost as well, which is a big topic at the minute. The other one is, I suppose, then if you're on the kind of further away and you're in a home that's built and occupied before 2021, and you're kind of on the newer end of that scale, your home is probably heat pump ready or very, very close to heat pump ready. And to me, like, to move from fossil fuels, whether it's an oil or gas boiler, over to a heat pump, you're going to see the comfort level is fantastic. It's highly energy efficient. It will be cheaper, particularly with the increase in cost of energy at the minute. And you have all the sort of green credentials that come with it, and it'll naturally become greener over time as the grid switches over to more forms of renewable electricity. So you have the you have all your sort of, you'll be sleeping better at night, kind of on the climate action side of things anyway. So, to me, there's two anyway that jump off the print for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I suppose I've just got two more questions for you, because this is, I suppose, kind of a whistle stop tour conversation. So in terms of any other important updates or information that people should know in relation to these grants, like, is there anything I'm missing that I haven't asked? Or, like, for example, I think for some people, and you have mentioned this, but maybe just to reiterate it, Windows and grants for Windows. So they are included in the one-stop shop offering. Is that correct? But not necessarily as an individual grant.
Yes, you're 100% there. So windows and doors are part of the one-stop shop offering. They're not available through SEAI grants anyway, through in any other form, rather than through kind of this a larger upgrade where you're upgrading to a B2 in the one go as such. I suppose that is one consideration when selecting which route you want to go, because again, it is a big ticket item, and it would be great to get a grant for them. But at the end of the day, you may have good windows in already. Again, if you've good double or triple glazed windows that have been installed in the last 10 years or so, chances are they're probably good enough, and they don't need to be changed. So again, look at what you have, and that's where you're engaging with a technical assessor, or assessor, or even a one-stop shop, or getting somebody out to take a look, and give you the advice on that. Like I said, with such a big ticket item, you certainly don't want to be replacing it if it's not needed. If it is needed, it'd be great to go down the one-stop shop route. The one thing actually in terms of not anything you've missed as such, but it is something you've mentioned, is the finance side of things. And, that is something that we've certainly spoke about before on previous kind of chats like this, is, that there is a green loans to be launched kind of later in the year. I've seen September mentioned. I've seen kind of, the summer mentioned. So certainly towards the latter end of this year, we should have some sort of a green loan scheme in place. And they're talking about interest rates between 3 and 3.5%. So that's going to be a real game changer for people that may not have been able to go down the one-stop shop route or the B2 in one go route. But this might change that for a lot of people as well. So I think that's something that's massively significant. I suppose it's not here yet, so it's difficult to see what it's like and what shape it's going to take. But that's something that certainly, to me, that's probably the final part of the puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think when that does eventually come around, we'll be having another conversation about what that means. No, but I think it's absolutely necessary, and it's something that has been needed for a very long time. So that's really great to hear straight off the press. And then I suppose, just to finish up, if people want to learn more and understand, the process a bit more and read up about it, where would you recommend that they go for information?
I'd say straight away, if it's grants that you're interested in, I would say straight to the SEAI website, into the home energy grants section, and you'll see all the kind of offerings that are there, the values, the eligibility criteria. There's lots of fantastic resources out there, such as this series, Ask the Expert series, is brilliant, and I've watched kind of all the other ones myself because they're really kind of interesting. There's lots of events around the country. You could look up in your local area to see, is there a local sustainable energy community, and you could get involved with that. There are great sources of information as well. Even there's one, if you wanted to take a deeper dive, like the SEAI podcast 180 Degrees.
It's really
again
good.
Fantastic podcast series. And again, you can sort of kind of look through the list and see what you're actually interested there, and maybe cherry pick the stuff that you want to take a look at. I think if it is an area of interest, once you start Googling and searching around and scratching at it, you'll certainly find plenty of it.
Yeah, you'll end up down a rabbit hole like I have many a time myself.
Yeah.
And also as well, on our Codema website, we have an option to sign up to our newsletter, which we tend to kind of collate a lot of this news. And, you can sign up to different events, like you've mentioned, like webinars, and now, thank God, in-person events, which is great.
Yeah.
But there is just so much information out there. But, I really appreciate you coming on and giving up your time, for this kind of like 20-minute session, because, you have information in this direction and this direction, and it's so great just to have it all in one place, and people can kind of sit down and see how it relates to them. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there, but thank you so much, Eric. Really appreciate it, and no doubt I'll be in touch with you again to pick your brain on more information that's coming down the line.
Sure. Great chatting to you, Katie.
Thanks so much.